All right. So you want to play MetaZoo. There are a lot of cards that you could probably consider staples in this game. And for those that have actually played, this video is not going to help you. But, I thought for whatever reason, if somebody's really just bored out of their mind or whatever, they'll watch this video and be like, oh, well, maybe there's something I didn't know about playing MetaZoo. There's several staples, and that's kind of what I'm trying to highlight here, that they almost go in every deck. Towards the end of MetaZoo, one of the biggest critiques was really, the core cards, the cards you can't even change, the cards that just belong in every deck. Your mileage may vary on some of these, but I'll touch on the value of each card and kind of how they factored into the gameplay to an extent. So the first one is Absorb Aura, and Absorb Aura is kind of one of those cards that it was a little slept on when it came out. It came out in Nightfall. And the artifact essence, or the artifact essence, and the just the regular artifacts, I guess you fatigue them and you get 2 aura. Really, in the beginning they weren't, and even in the Nightfall they weren't super hot. You kind of saw that meta evolve a little bit into Wilderness and UFO, that everybody started playing this game where it's like, okay, I can ramp, if they don't have an answer for my artifacts, then you kind of just win. You pull ahead far enough that your opponent can't do anything about it. I'd say the biggest one was probably Cosmic. If you're playing a Cosmic Degenerate, all the Cosmic Degenerates play max artifacts, and if you're in a tournament, and I'd say to a lesser extent but similar extent, the Flame players play almost max artifacts as well. You didn't want to just auto lose, okay? And Flame and Cosmic very much have and had a place in the meta, especially UFO and onwards. Despite what people think about UFO being a bad set, there's some cards in there that were definitely maybe underpowered, but overall it did push the meta towards Cosmic and Flame. So with that said, you have to have, again in my opinion, minimum 2 Absorb Auras in your deck. This is a 4 per spell book. The other 2 are, again, just shoo-ins for your side deck. Always have 2 Absorb Auras. What does that mean for you? Say you go against an opponent and they're not playing any artifacts, they're not playing any fire crystals or whatever the essences are. That means you need to run at least 2 yourself. So 2 of these and 2 artifacts in your deck, that's a shoo-in. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that. You kind of, it's really hard to build a deck, in my opinion, with not at least 2 of those. And it gets complicated once you start figuring out what you're going to cut. Toxic Water, this is maybe more of a side deck card, but I think towards the end of the native meta, it really kind of had its own place. Toxic Water, for those that don't know, it removes all the traits on a beastie to the end of the turn, and really, I wouldn't say most importantly, but importantly, if the beastie was burrowed, you can unburrow it. Burrow is just a nasty trait. It's highly evasive, and I would say that the Worms deck is probably one of the most obvious decks that a lot of players were drawn to, and with that in mind, you need to have an answer for that. I think there's I won't do like a general side deck overview. There are side deck cards that maybe are better suited for Worms, but this is like a ubiquitous, if you're playing Quad Quets, it's great in the mirror. If you're playing against Worms, it's great in the mirror. This is like a very just generally good card. I personally never found a main deck purpose for it, but almost certainly side deck for sure. So that one was in there. It was in there like swimwear, as the folks say. Okay, moving forward. Pop Red. This is obvious, I guess. And since Cryptid Nation, since base set, I always had one of these in my deck. You can't really not play this card. I think it sort of speaks for itself, but 3 neutral to give 100 LP and 100 attack to any beastie, and then all of a sudden you put your opponent on a clock. Like, they have to deal with that monster, with that beastie. So, yeah, that said, play Power Up Red. It's funny, maybe towards the end, into especially, I guess, Native, I was playing with the idea of maybe not running Power Up Red. If you're running the light deck with the Octenas that have, Magic Proof, you can't play this card. Like, this does nothing for Octena. So, I don't know, there might be certain decks that you wouldn't run this in, maybe. But even even light, you could find a light elemental or whatever the heck you want to put this on and still cook. So, Power Up Red, insanely good card. Yeah, it's auto include. Oh man, first anniversary celebration. I don't even know where to begin to truly explain this card. I forget kind of how the rulings were for it. If you notice, it has the 25 here. It's almost listed like an attack. I again, the rulings for this were always up in the air. I should probably know how it landed a little bit better, but I can't be bothered to go back and think about that any more than I need to. All that you need to really know is that this does 25 damage. As far as I recall, it can hit burrowed beasties. Somebody check me on that, but I'm pretty sure it does. Because again, it doesn't target. And most importantly, it nullifies all traits for about 2 turns. And this whole game runs on traits. So if you can remove traits, it puts you in a very, very advantageous position. If your opponent's beasties aren't, they don't have first strike, they don't have flying, they don't have X, Y, and Z. A lot of their deck is just sort of shut down, and this thing can invert games. The 25 is also, it's situationally good. Again, if they're playing light elemental or whatever, you can pop one of those. Things with evasive traits sometimes have low LP, and this is good for that situation. But really, this game is based on traits. So just always remember that. What does that mean? In my opinion, this was a discovery that I don't know, I was on board with maybe UFO onward, somewhat in Wilderness. But every deck needs 2 of these. This is a 2 per spell book. I main 2. Minimum, you would have to run 1, and the other in the side deck potentially, but definitely you need 2 of these cards. It's busted, and the fact that was a promo, when you point to like the problematic things of MetaZoo, I think a lot of folks are maybe overreacting a bit, but this is probably one of those like, okay, maybe we shouldn't make one of the most playable cards in the whole game a promo. So, anyways, 2 of those, yeah, or at least 1 in your deck, but 2 for sure is strong. This is for me. This is just me. Like, this is my hill. Growth, with 2 Prism Auras and the Earth Forest Fusion Aura and stuff like that. You can fight me on this. That's fine. But growth in every deck is a staple. I always want to draw 5 cards, and I always am finding a way to draw 5 cards. But that one's a little bit of a reach for, like a main deck staple. New Year's New Beginnings. Yeah, this is a state. Like, every deck should have New Year's New Beginnings. Why? You want to dump cards and draw 7, and you can hurt your opponent. The more you play, the more you'll realize like when's a good time to play the card and when's not a good time to play the card. For me, I like to rip it turn 1 if I see it. That's not always in the best. I don't know. That doesn't always put me in the best situation, but by and large, you have to have New Year's New Beginnings in your deck. There is an alternative to it. It's called New Beginnings, and they made another one, I think, too. This one is you just shuffle. I guess I should explain what New Year's does. You discard your whole hand and you draw 7, both players. This one, you take your hand and you shuffle it into your deck and you draw 7. Some decks like Water, maybe, where they're just drawing a bunch of cards, but maybe they want new cards for their combo, would play this. But the destructive ability of New Year's New Beginnings cannot be, cannot be emphasized enough. Lightning in a Bottle, if this isn't in your main deck, which it's not, your aggro decks you'll see it, but to a lesser extent maybe your control builds won't have it. 2 in your side. Gotta have 2 in the side deck. Why? And this is shiesty, but if you're in a tournament and you're going to time, what do? You side these in, right? Like you hope you top deck into Lightning in a Bottle and a Beastie and you hit them once and you win. That feels terrible. Anybody that's telling you that they didn't try to do that or didn't do that, they either weren't playing like on a very high level competitive platform, I guess, or I don't know, they just haven't played other card games. But you play this, you side it in going to time. First anniversary celebration. I mean, this card's rad. Or second anniversary, I'm sorry. RIP third anniversary. But this one was cool. It's it's essentially like a counter spell to neutral cards, right? So not only are you able to negate a New Year's when your opponent's about to wreck you, you can also negate the Fax and several other of those destructive promo cards. New Year's New Beginnings being a promo card, this being a promo card, to maintain your board state or whatever your game plan initially was. So not only that, you could counter those neutrals, and then this would allow you and your opponent to bookmark a card. I don't know how I feel about both players bookmarking a card. I feel like it should just have been a pure punish, right? You had to leave an aura up for this, so you tap it, and it's only good against neutrals, but I don't know. It's a fair card, I guess you could say. Bookmark, you run 2 of these. I don't know why you wouldn't run 2 of these. I always was trying to find a reason not to run 2. The deck that I always built that didn't run 2 of these was Cosmic, just because of how many tutors there are. I think there's a case to be made that in Cosmic you can outvalue Bookmark, especially being with it being an off color. You just want as many of those green Cosmic cards in the deck. Otherwise, I think you're always playing 2 Bookmarks, and it would make no sense to keep one in your side deck or have them in your side deck. And then finally, this goes without saying, Prismora. I mean, just a resource that can be any color allows you and enables you to do so much more with your decks and deck building and combinations. You run these at 2, almost always at 2. There's a few niche situations to where it's like, okay, maybe you wouldn't run 2 against a deck that is running a bunch of infinite powers, but even then, whatever, right? Like, they hit you with infinite power and you just move on with your life. But that's usually been the case for me, just constantly running 2. Let's see here, and all told, I mean, you've got, so that's 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 11. So that's 11 cards if you're running the spellbook limits on them, which I almost always have done, except for, again, 2 of these. But 11 cards in a 40 to 41 card deck. We're talking about 25% of your deck building was just locked up in these neutrals, right? So some of that was a little stifling, and I'm not really sure how you can R&D your way out of that situation, but I do think that at least where the game ended, you had to at least play the power neutrals, and then, I mean, this is the cute card that I'll always say you gotta play. But yeah, not much of a deck tech. I don't even know, again, deck tips. Whoever's still playing this, God bless you. I played some MetaZoo this weekend with some buddies at the brewery, and that was a good time. So just kind of was a nice reminder of like, okay, well, maybe you can still play MetaZoo, right? As much as people gave it a hard time for it being like a bad game or a jank game, I think that's way too easy to write it off. I could tell you how many shit games there are out there, and you'll still find somebody that loves that game, right? I mean, people are playing Neopets. Just kidding. But you like what you like, play what you like. If you like MetaZoo, Shout it out in the comments. Tell me why you like it. And I don't know, just keep rocking. So take it easy, y'all. Peace out.